Oops, gotta see. All right, I'm calling the meeting to order at 1 PM on January 20th. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the
to
flag
the flag of the United States of
of
America
America
and to the republic
which is
which
stands
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 one nation.
One
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 nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
undivided,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all. Okay, we have on our screens the agenda. Does anyone have any additions or corrections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the December 1st Ethics Commission meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or objections to anything in this agenda? I mean, this set of minutes.
No,
Hearing none there.
no comments from me. Here's Peter.
Okay. It's approved. Thank you, Sharon. All right. Next is consider
May
appointing.
I,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, getting back to the approval of the agenda, would it make sense for the future to always include an additional agenda item which would read something like any further matter that any participant wants to bring before the meeting?
Brad, is that? I guess two questions. Is that necessary in order to bring something new?
It is not necessary, but the time interval between the commission's meetings is quite long. It's a month, sometimes longer, and things may come up in between that would be suitable to be discussed at the forthcoming meeting. So it's a humble suggestion, and if it doesn't seem necessary or meet with favor, I'll be very happy to withdraw it.
I have no objection. Rengert, what are your thoughts?
I don't have an objection. That's fine.
All right, well, let's put it into, Sharon, put that into the next agenda, draft agenda.
Okay,
And if necessary, give Peter a call to get the exact wording he's suggesting.
Okay, I'll be willing to do that.
Next item is consider points made at the town council's January 11th, 2022 work session, where they considered proposed amendments to the ethics ordinance. And I would like to propose that any elected official can participate in this discussion right now.
If you don't mind, I'll be happy to start, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Okay. I guess you want to know who I am. Obviously, I'm Pat Mahoney, 4006 14th Street, and the mayor, for full disclosure. I guess first I just want to thank the board. I do appreciate your volunteerism and your time, and I can't say enough words about how grateful I am for your service. In regards to the subject matter, you've probably seen a letter that I wrote, Chairman Keith, after the last town council meeting. And so I'll just, reiterate those and then comment on another item if I'm allowed.
sure.
25-23B. Basically, this is where we talk about, elected officials, becoming officers of organizations that receive funding from the town, I guess,
Yes.
be it a grant or just a line item like public safety. And being that we're a small town, in my experience in the 27 years in office, is basically that volunteers are very hard to find, and it's you don't want to discourage volunteerism, A, and B, certain volunteers bring certain skill sets, to the table, which is why people step up to be volunteers, and probably almost everybody on this call fits into that category. So having said that, I can look internally just at, board members I've served with and board members that I serve with now on the council. No offense to bringing up names, but, I've admiration for those who do volunteer. I call Larry a super volunteer. He's a retired engineer and he volunteers for a bevy of things, whether, it's as a volunteer firefighter. I asked him to serve on the Chesapeake Beach, Railway board, which he agreed to as a non-voting member. I know he does stuff with the county in terms of economic development. And I also know that Councilwoman Bodine volunteers, extensively, at a minimum with the End Hunger. And these sort of violence, and I've been asked to join many a board back when I was younger, when my child was playing soccer, to serve on boards. Because of the skill set that I brought, So it would just seem that as a society or a community, we're really, getting real picky, and we could actually be hurting, these organizations if they cannot, have these volunteers, or we would be hurting as a town council if a member chose to step down from council because they think, I recently was asked to serve on Calvert Hospice, for many reasons. One of them being that I'm an elected official who's a cancer survivor. I'll probably do that as soon as I leave public office here. So there's a lot more factors than just looking at it like we're a big city. So I just wanted to bring that to the table for you to, understand that side of it. The other issue, I'm not going to talk about.
Pat, why don't we stop there and let Ingrid, Peter, and myself
Sure.
comment on it?
That's how you want to do that. Thank you.
Take them one by one.
Yeah.
Ingrid?
I definitely understand what Pat is saying. I guess I just wish there were more people in our community who would step up, so we wouldn't even have to consider this issue. I mean, I don't know. I think we have 6,000 people in town now, something like that.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's the same people over and over who are always volunteering. So,
Yeah.
but that just may be how it is. So, and I guess we have to certainly consider that.
Peter?
I think, Mr. Mayor, what you told us provides a very valuable reality check for this commission. And I can only heartily endorse your concern that any obstacle that may exist that prevents people from volunteering should be removed, or if that's not possible, should be minimized. That would include the obstacle that came up in a different context, and that is also the proposed amendments to the ordinance. We now provide a monetary fine for certain omissions. I think it's $5, and according to advice we've received from council, to have monetary fines is not mandated by the state ethics law. And while we are discussing obstacles to volunteering, I think we should consider removing this trivial fine. I think if nobody who would become subject to a fine would be deterred by the small amount. If a fine is supposed to make sense, it has to have a bite, and this one wouldn't. Maybe something like public shaming would be a much more effective sanction.
Yeah, a whipping. Right. You know, I'm going to hold my comments on that, Peter, because I know the mayor wants, that's one of the points the mayor's bringing up. On this thing about the serving, right now, I think we're required by the state law to say you cannot serve as an elected official if you're employed by a company that has a contract with the town. So we're required to have that interference. The
Yes,
reason-
I wouldn't quarrel with that. I don't
No,
think.
And we can't, but
No.
it does, that is a discouragement. And we have had a situation from time to time, well, it doesn't matter, it has come up in reality. The benefit to the proposed amendment would be to protect entities from feeling that they have to place elected officials or high appointed officials on their boards in order to obtain funding, and protect those entities from suspicion that they're relying on unfair political advantage in the competition for funds. So I think what we're weighing is the concerns I just expressed, which have not come up as far as I know. And the reality that I think Peter, Ingrid, and I are unanimous on, to minimize negative effects that are not necessary to maintain an ethical government with a reputation for ethics. Larry?
Yeah, I just wanted to build on the mayor's comments and just offer another perspective that I would suggest it's actually a good thing for the town to have elected officials on some of these boards to make sure that whatever funds are contributed by the town are fiscally responsibly spent.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, are these proposed amendments going to be brought to the council tonight?
No,
Sorry, yes or no?
no.
No, okay. Then what I'm going to suggest is that, this one anyhow, we'll see what happens, the rest of them. Oh, actually, Ingrid and Peter, we can vote on changing our proposal right now or later in the meeting, or we can have it on the agenda for February's meeting,
I vote for the latter.
as long as it's before the council votes. Okay, Peter, what's your feeling?
On this one, I will go along with my elders and betters, Phil and Ingrid. I defer judgment because I wasn't involved in the long effort to improve the wording of the ordinance. That was all done before I came on the commission.
Okay. All right, Mr. Mayor, your next point was about the late fee.
Yeah,
You
um,
want-
I was going to not comment on that in this meeting, as I already made my point, and go to something that I consider more important, if you will.
Sure.
I was going to comment on 25-27B, I guess, paren 4 or whatever that was, and
Yeah.
in terms of elected officials receiving gifts from organizations that receive grants. And I just want to tell you that I'm in full support of that. And I can tell you, under my administration, okay, I have asked Twin Beach players not to give elected officials, free tickets to their shows. They complied. We had a recent thing where the school wanted to give us, it was little itty bitty t-shirts that weren't worth $10, but I just said, let us pay for them. I just felt better about that. And, for the record, if you see me walking around town with a Beach Bucks hat or sweatshirt or whatever, I paid cold cash for that. I wasn't going to do that. So I just wanted to put that out there. And Mr. Chairman, I do have to prepare for the evening meeting soon. And I was wondering if you would let me just comment on F. On F, which is, I guess we're talking about employing
Oh,
town
yeah.
council children.
Yes,
Do you mind?
hold on a second. Yeah, let me, before you do, Pat, can you hear me?
I can.
Mayor? Okay. What is sort of on the agenda is what we discussed last month was the uh, the ordinance right now defines the word entity as, I'm sorry, get back. Oh, as a person, a company, or a government or instrumentality of government. And then it says, a covered person may not participate in any matter in which any of the following is a party. And it says it's a covered person, a close relative, let's say a child, right? And I'm thinking that we have to amend somewhere to either say you're barred an entity, including the water park and the town of Chesapeake Beach, or other than the water park or the town of Chesapeake Beach. It's ambiguous now, and I think we owe it to ourselves to not get in a situation where a teenager applies for a summer job with the water park, gets hired, a complaint is filed, and we decide, after the fact that the ordinance does mean you can't participate in matters in which your child affecting the water park if your child is employed by the water park. So it's not a question of anyone's proposing to decide that. Well, no, I'm sorry. I think what we should do, and we don't have to obviously do it today, what's on the agenda is it's got to be clear, I think, whether in this particular case, children of elected officials clearly can be employed by the water park, or children of elected officials clearly cannot be employed by the water park, or get into the participation options. So back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. So I want to comment on this, and since I'm probably, the only one left in town who was an elected official back in 1996 when the water park was up and running. So maybe I can just give a little historical background.
Yeah.
When my first year on council was 1996, and what I remember is that the mayor and we were all volunteer, and the mayor at that time, made it clear publicly that children of obviously him and the council got first preference to be employed at the water park. And I think a lot of the reasoning at that time, which is a quarter century ago, was everybody was volunteer, and that sort of thing. And I know my son at the time was 2 or 3 years old, and for the record, 12 to 15 years ago, when I was on the town council, before we had an ethics ordinance, my own very son, Patrick, worked as a lifeguard at the water park. And I do know that what I've seen is that children of elected officials became very good employees. There's a lot of pressure on them to do well. And a lot of them didn't even want to work at the water park because their mom or dad or whatever was on the council. But to dig into this deeper and to share some thoughts that I've had for quite some time about this, is if you want to ask the question, and this is just water park, related, do children or have, children of elected officials, received preferential treatment? I believe the answer is yes. I believe it happened. And once again, full disclosure, the first water park manager, it was a man, and he was my neighbor. I definitely had a lot of insight at that time. Okay, are the water park staff managers or whatever aware that their children's parents, I mean, that this employee, your child's, your parents, is on the council or mayor and approves their salaries? Absolutely, yes, they're aware. I mean, you know, they don't go into that job wearing blinders, you know, I know that. And, you know, and the third question, which is tough, but it's, you know, reality is, in the last 25 years, you know, has an elected official, you know, used his or her prestige of office to, you know, to mention to, or to make it clear to, you know, said town employee that, you know, they approve their salaries? Yes, I suppose that has happened too. So I bring this to you just from a historical knowledge and my perception and what I've seen, and not make any recommendations at all. I just thought that you guys might want to hear my perspective, since I was actually, you know, there since day one. And as I said, you know, quite frankly, before I was mayor, before we had an ethics ordinance, my son did work there for a few years, and I was told he was a great employee. Now, I can tell you that they probably, I would imagine that there's an instance or two where the child of a elected official, you know, can get better hours or more hours, or, you know, move into management. I can tell you a whole lot of the kids, including my son, didn't want extra hours. So I don't know whether they were offering them or whatever there. They just wanted to get the minimum hours in and go on and have fun because they were teenagers. But these are things that you really need to consider, because, you know, I always thought, well, you know, a lot of parents want their children to get as many hours in because they're saving money for books or whatever. And, you know, I can see where someone would complain as to, you know, why does, you know, this elected official's, you know, son get to work all the prime hours and everything else, and the rest of the kids are scrapping for, you know, a couple hours a week. So, you know, I'm not sure where you're going to go with all of this, and I just wanted to share that, and I'll support your judgment. So having said that, those are really the comments that I have for today's meeting, and I'm going to hang in there for a little bit, but I do have to run to the office and get ready for my evening meeting. So I'll beg off in a bit. So thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, and Councilmember Jaworski, for your participation. The information is extraordinarily valuable to us.
You're welcome.
We'll fully take account of it at our next meeting when we deal with these things. There is the question of the fee, and I, for one, find Peter's comments pretty convincing if we can. Anyhow, well, let's just, I know, well, we did three things with regard to fee. One was to put a limit on it. There had not been one. And the other is to say that if there are fees, it's for filing late or being dilatory in responding to requirements to make corrections. But Peter's point is that I think if it's less than $100 a day, find some other way of punishing. And I'm open to that. I don't know if Ingrid, unless you have anything more on that, we'll go on to status of disclosures.
I don't have anything else.
Thank you, everybody. All right, we asked for closeout disclosures from 3 former officials, and they all provided timely responses. I think it's up to us to decide whether they're complete. Start with Mr. Favre. I see no possible problem here, and those in favor of, does anyone have any objections to approving Favre's closeout disclosure?
No.
No objection. This is Peter.
Hearing none, it is approved. Next is Mr. Ferguson. Looks like it's complete to me. Any objections to approving it?
No
No.
objection, Peter.
It's approved. And Mr. Larson,
No objection.
Objection. Okay. Ingrid, no objection?
No,
It's approved. I do want to add something, which is for the annual disclosures that will be coming up in April. I wonder if it's possible to change our form so that if somebody filed a form in 2021 and there are no changes, that the person can just do what we had these folks do, which is just certify that there's no changes. So they don't have to go through 15 pages and retype, at least think about that for the next meeting.
I think it's very well worth thinking about. And, right now, without having thought, I would favor that proposal.
And
Anything
by the way,
that,
that's an example of somebody bringing up an agenda item that wasn't in the published agenda. All right.
Yeah.
Next item, schedule the next regular meeting of the commission. Pat, when is the next work session of the council?
I think it's I want to say the 8th, maybe. Is Holly on the call? Or I can check it here.
It's the 8th.
Yes.
It's the 8th.
It's on, my calendar says it's the 8th.
Yeah, okay, that's when it is. And
Yeah.
if I can, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm not going to press your volunteer board on this matter, in terms of, hurrying it along, because there's really nothing that prevents me, operational wise, from functioning. So you do what you want to do or can do in your timely fashion, not around mine.
Well, if we want to get this off our agenda, I'd like
Okay,
to
all right.
get it if we can. And it would be limited to these 3 items that have been commented on. Let me get a calendar myself.
Hopefully he has a town calendar he's checking.
If not, we should get him one.
Yeah, I think we should get him one. He is a chairman, for crying out loud.
Tell him to check his mailbox.
Aha, doesn't look like one.
Ingrid and Peter, can either of you meet in the first week of February?
what did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can either of you meet in the first week of February?
Yes,
yes, I will become unavailable on February the 8th.
All right, how about Thursday, the 3rd of February?
I can't do that. I'm taking
Okay.
a family member to the doctor.
Okay, 2nd of February?
That
That's-
works.
Oh, okay, with me,
Fred?
Peter.
Fred, how are you?
Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar. Hold on a second. 2nd of February works fine for me.
Sharon?
We're good.
Okay, our next regular meeting will be on February 2nd at 1 p.m. All right, any comments by either commissioners or any members of the public?
I have no comment, this is Peter.
I want to thank the mayor and council members for attending this meeting.
Thank you for allowing us to have input. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Phil, it's Peggy.
oh, yes.
I just had a quick question. Did you, at this meeting, discuss the question I sent you? I joined
Oh,
about
I'm
2 minutes
sorry,
late.
oops, I am sorry. Question that council member asked was, hold on a second, let me get this. The current 25-23 has a provision that says you can't be employed or in an entity that is that is subject to the authority of the town, and then several other things. We're not proposing to change that. We think it's something like that language or something like that is legally required. But I know, Ingrid, you may be able to help me on this. It's come up in the past, that question has been asked and we don't know the answer to, what does it mean?
Yeah.
And I think it comes up in I think in the disclosure forms, you are asked.
Well, in the
Have
disclosure
anyone
form-
who is employed by an entity that is subject to the authority of the town. And we're not, well, I know what we don't do, we don't provide a list. You know, we provide a list of entities that have contracts with the town or have bid for contracts. We don't provide a list of those subject to the authority. So I don't know what we should do.
Okay, I mean, the disclosure statement is pretty clear, but the one addition of you can't be an officer or board of anybody who is subject to the authority of the town. I just wasn't sure what exactly the authority of the town was.
Yeah.
Other than, we're paying you for something or you might get money from us.
There's this, Peter, for whatever it's worth, I have no idea what the term means. In a way, we are all subject to the authority of the town.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because if I start littering my front lawn, the town can come to me and say, pick it up or else. And the only enlightenment I could get by looking at one of the state's model ordinances, it uses the same terminology within the definition of the term doing business with the town, without defining our problematic choice of words itself. So that's where we are. And I think the operative question is, does this create a problem? Has anything come up? Is it like children being employed at the water park? That's a real issue. And if it's not a problem, maybe we don't need to worry about it.
Well, I would like to suggest that before the next meeting, we further discuss it with our attorney, Mr. Sussman, and with Holly Wall. If this precise wording is not required by law, is there any wording that would provide any benefit to us in protecting the ethics of the town? Fred?
Yeah, Phil, as I said yesterday in my response back on that, number one, that precise terminology is used in the state law and is used in Model A and Model B. So it's a term of art that I think the state is looking for everybody to incorporate. Now, what does authority of the town mean? I've always thought or interpreted that to mean subject to probably the regulatory authority of the town. As an example, if hypothetically you had an activity going in town, a business in the town that was subject to regulation by the planning commission. I know that's probably not a good example. Then I think that business was subject to the regulatory authority of the planning commission. Now, I think we also need to recognize that this is the town's ordinance, as many of the others, are much broader than what is required in the state law, when it's really tying, the authority to a particular official or a particular board, commission, or something like that. So it hypothetically, if you had a state agent or you had a business that was subject to the regulatory authority of a state administrative agency, then the an individual member of that regulatory authority could not be employed by the business subject to his board's authority. I think that's kind of what it's trying to get at. And I understand the comment that was just made that theoretically or hypothetically, any citizen could be subject to, sort of authority of the town. And you are, to the extent that you're subject to all the, rules and regulations and ordinances and codes of the town. But I really don't think that's what it's getting at. And, my thought was either we come up with a definition on our own to see for Chesapeake Beach what works in that context, recognizing that I really think we need to keep the terminology, but that doesn't mean we can't define the terminology, or the board, through an every opinion, could not interpret it in a reasonable way. But I do agree that it is very ambiguous, and something probably should be done to clarify.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I encourage you to do that, because if you can't define it, you can't enforce it.
Yeah, or you can't enforce it fairly.
True, true. Perhaps it's something as simple as per what is contained in the disclosures or something like that, because the disclosures are really good at that. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for reminding us. I didn't put it on the agenda, and it should have been. That I have the paperwork in front of me, and I just bypassed it. All right, so that should be on the agenda for next meeting as well, that whether we need to or ought to recommend a change in that particular language. Is there anything further before we consider adjournment? Hearing none. All in favor of adjourning indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Everybody be healthy and safe.
Thank you.
You too,
Hey,
Fred.
Ingrid?
Yeah.
Hey, Ingrid, I think I
Yeah.
am number 5,999,000.